Computer plane, eh?
Yeah, it's a Convair 5A.
It's Convair 5A, and that's Allison power on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, with big four-bladed square-tip propellers. Now the tractor's pulling away, and the chap is checking various things in the nose of the aircraft. Now he's taking away the nose gear lock and so on. He's waving it to show that he's got it in his hand. Now the other engine will start shortly. And it's funny, he started the starboard first. He started course first.
Yeah, we accepted the...
Oh yeah, that was...
Supporting stuff.
Yeah, right. He uses power off the electrical system on the engine that's running to start the other one, because the starter has quite a draw on an engine that size. Now here's the tractor pulling in right here in front of you. It'll park here until it's needed the next time. The tractor's made very low so that he doesn't get in the way of anything. Now, the chap is cleared and he'll start. Shortly he'll pull out of that taxi spot and turn and head out a taxiway out to wherever he's going for departure, whichever runway.
So what happens? He has to talk. He's talking to the control tower right now?
Yeah, the control tower clears him to turn whichever way and follow a prescribed path out to whichever runway he's going to use for his actual takeoff. He's under complete control of the tower each of the way. You notice he's blowing the snow away behind him with those big props.
How fast will a plane like that fly?
Oh, cruising the 250, 300, right?
325, yeah.
Yeah.
We're standing in the airport, the Ottawa International Airport. But off to the left here is another airport. What airport's that?
Well, this is the military side of the airport. Ottawa International is both a civil airport for ordinary passenger operation and also a large military airport for both military passenger operation and training of various kinds and so on. And so you can see there are a whole series of hangars there with office space attached to them and a lot of other buildings as well. There's only one military aircraft standing on the flight line down in front of the hangars there just at the moment. Looks like a T-bird. But they run a passenger service out of here with Boeing 707s to overseas points and both ways in Canada from here.
Your attention please, paging passengers Shaver, Kniffen and Bridges for immediate boarding to flight 825 at gate 24.
So can you tell us where we are now?
You're in the air traffic control center at the airport, and you notice in front of the operator there a radar screen on which is shown the locations and movements of aircraft. There's several of these screens with different operators dealing with different kinds of work. The chap there is filling out the little slips that they use to keep track of individual aircraft, which show up as little blips as the radar swings around. You can see there are a lot of little blips there. And the trick, of course, is to keep aircraft out of each other's way and to hand off the ones that are coming into the airport to the airport traffic controller, in contrast to the airway traffic controller. And the airport traffic controller then guides those aircraft into the circuit pattern so that they don't interfere with each other, and brings them around on the circuit to line up to the appropriate runway depending on wind direction and other conditions, and then spaces them so that they can land safely without being too close together, and at the same time without being too far apart, which might waste time and delay later aircraft. It's a very difficult job to do well, and a very demanding job, because you're not permitted to make mistakes.
Now, we were in the air traffic control area. Now we're upstairs. What is this room called?
Well, you're looking out at the airport, and there is one runway approach over a taxiway that passes over the approach road to the airport, and you saw that in the previous scene there. And that's used sometimes to bring aircraft to certain parking areas on the airport without having to travel a long distance on a runway or even on a taxiway where it might interfere with other aircraft movements.
So from this viewpoint here, you can see the whole airport runway.
Yes. Yes. The idea of the control tower is that it's a place that's high enough up that it can see directly to all the places where aircraft will move, so that the controllers are fully aware at all times of where all the aircraft are. Now, once an aircraft has come in on approach and landed and is taxiing on the ground, it comes under the control of the ground controller, who directs it by the various taxiways to the place where it will stop to discharge passengers and cargo, baggage, and pick up a fresh load, as well as being refueled. This is a military aircraft going over that bridge over the airport approach road that is the sort of back way in from one of the runways without coming directly into the terminal area and conflicting with the traffic that's there. That's a military transport used for moving military personnel around, mainly in Canada.
And it's going to the Uplands military base.
I presume so, yes. Here's an aircraft that's ready to be de-iced. This is a winter scene, as you can see. The chap up in the cherry picker bucket has a hose, and he will apply heated de-icing fluid to the aircraft to remove any possibility of ice being on the aircraft. You notice how hot it is, it steams. To remove any ice that's on the aircraft and to put a layer of de-icing fluid on the surface so that ice will not accumulate as the aircraft goes up through icing areas after takeoff.
Now, how long would the de-icing last?
Not too long, and so it's done very shortly before takeoff. In most cases, the icing layer that has to be penetrated is not very great, and so enough de-icer fluid is put on to make sure that it will provide the protection required to get the aircraft up out of the icing situation. A lot of attention is paid to the control joints, which have to be free to move. Now, here comes a helicopter in, and unlike an aircraft that lands on a runway, he comes in and is directed to travel at low altitude without actually landing, because he can move faster in the air than he can on the ground. So he's flying along at low altitude on a prescribed track to take him to the point where he will land near the military terminal. And he can, as I say, move faster in the air than he can on the ground. So rather than landing and taxiing, he's allowed to fly right into the point where he's going to land. That way he's in the way in front of the terminal and so on for a shorter time than if he landed and taxied along. He's not moving very fast even so, but he's moving a lot faster than he would comfortably do on the ground. So he'll go over to the military terminal and land at a prepared site there. He's in view of the tower there, and the tower can see that he's going where he should and will get out of the way of other aircraft.